All right, the Bulldogs have held on against the Canberra Raiders barely by a toothpick, by a pindick. They struggled. It was a really nervy end to the match. Definitely not a sight for sore eyes, perhaps a cure for insomniacs. Not a game that will go down in the history books, not a game that I would recommend watching if you're trying to get someone in a rugby league. But you know what it is? It's the Bulldogs 2-0 to start the NRL season. No two ways about it. The Bulldogs, look, we'll talk about the game in just a moment, but all things considered, good result. 14-10 winners away from home at GIO Stadium. That is a good result. You can twist that any way you want. You can say the Bulldogs were terrible, and I won't disagree with you. You can say that the Bulldogs should have played better. You could say that Canberra perhaps deserved to win if you want to say that. But all things considered, I thought that at the end of the day, the 2 points has been taken. Was it the Bulldogs' best performance? Absolutely not. Let's talk about the Canberra Raiders first and the player of the game. So we start. I did mention in my match preview that I thought Canberra would score first. Lo and behold, Canberra scored first. Somoli goes over after a ridiculous flick pass from Hudson Young. So full credit there. That wasn't bad Bulldogs defense. It was just really brilliant play. And sometimes you just have to put your hand up and say congratulations when good football is played. So Somali goes over. The Canberra dominated for the first 10 minutes. Then the Bulldogs get a little bit of momentum back. Lots of ball, lots of six agains going their way, lots of penalties, but the Bulldogs struggle to penetrate. We get a brilliant try from Stephen Crichton. Stephen Crichton scores a brilliant try coming from left center over to the right-hand side, playing almost like a second fullback in that attacking play. And I have to say that's brilliant coaching by Cameron Ciraldo, brilliant work by Adam O'Brien, the attacking coach, to either identify a weakness in Canberra or, sorry, that's my solo coming out, brilliant identification of a weak spot in Canberra's defense, or seeking or identifying an opportunity to get Stephen Crichton in a one-on-one situation with Ethan Sanders. So you have to say that that's good coaching, great execution, great utilization of the Bulldogs' most attacking threat in Stephen Crichton. The Bulldogs go equal, at least in terms of try for try, yet still behind on the scoreboard. Lots of penalties, lots of domination. The Bulldogs went well into that first half before having an error. I think they completed something like 15 sets before their first error through Connor Tracy, who I'm going to talk about Connor Tracy in just a moment. So then the Bulldogs get it out to 6-all, then 8-6 through two penalty kicks to Stephen Crichton. Papali'i gets sin-binned in the midst of all of that, and obviously that helps. Let's talk about the highlights for Canberra. Then I'm going to dissect the Bulldogs' performance, and then we'll talk about Connor Tracy, and we all go to bed happy. On Canberra, they didn't have a lot of the ball, and once again, I thought that, look, I'm a Bulldogs fan, but I can call a spade when I see it. The Bulldogs got the rub of the green once again. The first 10 minutes, a lot of momentum was going Canberra's way, a lot of calls were going Canberra's way, but over the stretch of the 80 minutes, the Bulldogs got the balance of the decisions. And I don't think that that's an unrealistic or a misguided view. I think that that's quite an accurate reflection of the way that the rugby league game played out. In saying that, Canberra showed what they're capable of when they had the ball. You saw that late comeback towards the end. Somoli goes over once again. But they just didn't have a lot of ball. The Bulldogs got the share of the ball. The Bulldogs didn't have any sin bins. But at the end of the day, as we say, the scoreline speaks for itself. Let's talk about the Bulldogs' performance, their attack. It's really disjointed. I think the Bulldogs' attack has lots of problems. And for me, no questions got answered today in terms of the querying around the halves. Bailey Hayward had a brilliant piece of play when he shaped outside, went inside into Connor Tracy, which led to Jacob Preston's try the very next play. We need to see more of that from Bailey Hayward. For too long, it was simple passing off the deck. Dummy halves in the NRL need to be much more creative than what we saw out of Bailey Hayward. That's not a criticism of Bailey. I think he's capable. That's the key. I think he's capable of being a more genuine number 9 in the NRL, but the level of performance we saw from him today in terms of his creativity is still lacking. His service was really good. I think he puts the ball in the right areas, good delivery off the deck, which is great, but he needs to be more creative out of dummy half. He needs to get his forwards moving forward. So if you look at the best hooker in the game, that being Harry Grant shapes the ball. So when he comes out, he's almost shaping the ball before he's passing to whatever option there may be. There's always options left and right of Harry Grant. There's always options left and right of Reece Robson. The best hookers in the game make sure that there are options running with them at all times. The Bulldogs were just far too deep too many times. The gap between the dummy half and the first receiver, particularly in the Canberra's attacking end, was far too big. Lots of clunk in the Bulldogs attack. It's still just very rigid, very disorganized. They need to really get that right. They're lacking a game manager. There is no one taking control of the Bulldogs attack. They do these big shifts from left to right, from right to left, but there's no one trying to get them to a position on the pitch to then attack. You need to have options either side of you if you are the key playmaker or playmakers in an NRL team. If you shift the ball from left to right, it's very easy as a defensive team to understand where the ball is going to go. If the Bulldogs were just far too sideways and just far too deep and not enough inside options. If you look at the try that Jacob Preston scored, what happened the preceding play? There was a shape outside and then an inside ball to Tracy. The defenders got caught out because we had to give them two options. They took option A. Option B was the ball. That's a game of rugby league. The Bulldogs attack is really struggling. This halves pairing with Bailey Hayward, lots of question marks. Where I will put some praise on the spine, let's talk about Connor Tracy. 2 try savers, ran his ass off. He is everywhere. He works hard. It was key in the lead up to Stephen Crichton's first try as well. I'm glad he scored himself. The Bulldogs' best player, the best player on the field is Connor Tracy. People criticize him. People say, oh, Matt Burton, a fullback. Whoever thinks Matt Burton should be a fullback, seriously, rocks in your head. You can say he's a center, even the lock suggestion, which I don't agree with, but fine. If you think Matt Burton's a fullback, yeah, no worries. Willie Mason was a winger. But I digress. Connor Tracy was the Bulldogs' best player. He is so key. If you look at the New South Wales fullback right now, Dylan Edwards, Connor Tracy is in a very similar mold to Dylan Edwards. You could argue Dylan Edwards perhaps offers a little bit more in some regard. I wouldn't swap Connor Tracy for anyone. I think he's good. I think he personifies what a Bulldog is. Not quite in the same mold, but reminds me a little bit of Luke Patton, just in terms of the way he plays with his heart on his sleeve. If you're old enough to know who Luke Patton is. That makes me feel old. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, Connor Tracy, seriously, well done. Because if he wasn't on the pitch for the Bulldogs, not a chance in the world that the Bulldogs win that game of rugby league. So at the end of the day, the history books will not care how the Bulldogs won today. They won't care whether Lachlan Galvin played well, whether Matt Burton played well, the clunkiness of the attack. It won't matter. In the grand scheme of things, the Bulldogs are 2-0. We beat the bye last week. So we're undefeated. So we're actually 3-0. We're 3-0. We're top of the table. Can't complain. Early days. We go against an injury-ravaged Newcastle next week. Lots of work needs to be done on the attack. I don't think the Bronson Xerri news helps. I will say on the Bulldogs, there's so much strike on the left-hand side. You've got Kikau, you've got Burton, you've got Kiraz, Crichton, but there's nothing on the right, with all due respect. Tawala, Montoya, there's no threat out there. It's Galvin to Preston or it's nothing. And that to me is a concern. They need to find a way to get the balance back to the right-hand side. I suggested throwing Jacob Kiraz a right centre. I still think that would be a good option. Yep, it comes with its risks, but he is a threat with the ball. Get him in one-on-one situations. I think that's onto a good one. You want to move Stephen Crichton back to the right and bring Bronson Xerri back in, pending his performance this week. Again, I think that's a good thing. I don't want to see Bronson Xerri on the right. I don't want to see Tuala on the right, Crichton on the left. The attack just feels a bit broken at the moment. And against the better sides, if the Bulldogs play like that, they will not win. Spirited, Brilliant defense, as always. Full credit. We're top of the table. No arguments there. But we got to be better and we got to improve. I think that's a combination of the way we execute our attack, but also personnel. So a topic for another day. But there you have it. There's my match review. If you did enjoy the video, give it a like, subscribe. On our way to 2K, all that good stuff. Have a good night. The Bulldogs got the win. See you tomorrow. Broncos, Melbourne, Panthers, Roosters. Big game of rugby league. Enjoy your rugby league and get out of here.